Well, hello. How's everybody going? How's everybody doing? Oh my God. It's been a second since I've done the whole talking out loud to myself thing. Or to you guys. Hi, buddy. Hi, Cozy. Hi, Sai. Thank you guys for coming in. I know I didn't really announce anything. I was mostly just checking like the main reason I was doing this. The main reason I was doing this was to see how well this laptop um, managed with going live if I needed to use it. Because I'm, still in a weird sort of limbo space right now. Um, Trying to figure out what's happening, what's going on. To my understanding, we're supposed to be um, getting stuff going this week, maybe. Uh, or maybe next I don't hang on a second. That's gonna get annoying really fast. My do not disturb. Hopefully that means also my phone alerts will go on. Thanks for the follow. That was really nice of you. I appreciate it. Yes, welcome in. All three of you so far anyway. It is a weird time of day, so I'm not expecting a whole lot of people to show up necessarily. I just wanted to I freaking yelled Wayward's live when I saw Discord. I don't want you okay, I've held back the urge to say this for a while because I knew part of the reason why I was holding it back was because I was so worried about your immediate response. It does look like I'm about to start a 90-minute shoot. There isn't really anybody subbed to me, so I'm just gonna have to wait for the ads to be over, which is fine. People might watch this the VOD afterward. We'll see. I mean, who knows? Maybe, maybe not. We'll see. Um, is it? I guess it comes down to what am I doing for this today? What am I doing for this today? Um, I don't know when my spouse is going to be coming back in the house. He's out doing errands right now. Um, Went to do what was it? Had an appointment with a specialist today. So just waiting for him to come back from that. He sent me a message saying that what did he say? Let me check what he said. No, that's not where I would look. Why did I even do that? Why did I even do that? Not there. Not there either. Discord maybe? Maybe. Yes. Waiting for the bus. Long wait. That was at 12:40. So probably gonna be a minute. Probably gonna be a minute before he is back. Just a quick ad for Twitch Turbo. That's cool, Sai. Um, so I don't know if that means that you're back or not, if you can see me or not. Um, I trying to where was I what was I even talking about? Oh yeah, I remember now. Welcome back. Anybody who came from ad break to hell. I probably could have done the thing where I snoozed the ad. I'm wow, I can talk today. I'm kinda running on minimal setup right now, obviously. I don't have any of my alerts, my sound alerts on. I don't have any of my on-screen alerts on. I think I could probably try and make it work with Talk Studio. It would take me some time to, like, fiddle with the settings and stuff to see where I could find it, where it would be, um, before I even well, I'm not wanting to have this be what I use, going forward, but I might have to. I this has been an option for a bit for a couple of reasons I haven't used it. First reason being that if I wanted to use Pro and be able to stream, a number of times a month, I would have to pay, um, to use the feature, which is fine. I'm not necessarily opposed to that, but for a little while there, we were living pretty close to the dollar. We still are, but I have a weekend job right now. I'm working 12-hour shifts on Saturday and Sunday, which is a long shift, a long couple of shifts. Uh, Great for appointments that I have in the middle of the week with doctors, but currently, not exactly enough to really make what I feel would be a reasonable amount to maybe I don't know. I'm still thinking about it. I'm still thinking about it. It's a small enough number that I could probably pull it off if we needed to go any further with the, getting my rig set up back up and all of that stuff. I don't know. It's kind of a pain in the ass. It's kind of a pain in the ass. But like I was about to say before ad happened, Cozy, the I've been holding back the thing I'm trying to jumble out of my face hole, because I was worried about your reaction response and I didn't want to stress you out. And all of that, I was worried about that. So I haven't said anything this whole time, but it's been there in the back of my head every single time you call me up in stream. And please don't be upset or sad or anything like that. I can't control it, but I'm prefacing all of it with prefacing what I'm about to say with all of that because I'm not bothered. I just want to point that out. I'm not bothered. Um, Bard is the noun. Wayward is the um, verb. Verb is a doing word. So bard is typically what I would go by slash answer to when I'm in voice chat or when I'm doing stuff. Um, so there that is. Um, it's not a big deal though. Like I really don't care. I'll answer to pretty much anything. Uh, So yeah, what's been going on? What's been doing? What's been happening? I've been working. Um, we had the Northern Lights last night. That was pretty cool. It was a little hard to see in the city because of the light pollution, but uh, my spouse pointed out that if you brought up the camera phone and turned it up at the lights, you could see them a lot better. I did see big, huge chunks of like red, uh, which was really, really cool. I wish I had been better prepared to go out there and enjoy that. But I hadn't really planned on it and I was I don't even know what I was doing last night. I think I was just goofing off on mobile games and things because of trying to do side hustly stuff. That's another thing that I've been doing a lot is using like two or three of those uh, tracker app type things that follow your gaming and stuff. I've been able to get a couple of low cost games on Steam for that reason. I just got Mudborn, which is like a frog sim thing. I only just got it, so I'm just like figuring out the mechanics on how it works. It's not super intuitive. And there's um, some I don't even know how to explain it. The way the map is set out right now, there's like this quote unquote fluid that I can't move my frog through. So I probably have to have some sort of like special ability or something in order to be able to um do that. And in the meantime, I have to follow a very specific trail to get to certain things. And I'm supposed to be looking for keys, I think. the little shopkeeper guy said in order to access the locked door in the shop. Um, I only played it for maybe like 10 or 15 minutes yesterday, just to kind of get a feel for it while I was waiting for some other stuff to be happening in the house before I switch gate. Wait, what's going on? I'm modding for you and someone at the same time. Sorry. Okay. I don't know what you missed. I was talking about uh a game that I just picked up yesterday. Um and I also made a comment about my uh preferred address, like what you would call what I like to be. All I heard was something about Bard. Oh my gosh. So you literally didn't hear anything else. Okay. Um Bard is um the name you would say when addressing me in chat or in out loud during voice chat and streams and other stuff like that. And I had been keeping from saying that for a while because I didn't want to stress you out. Um, what was that about paying for something pro to stream? So I am using a web platform, I think is the best. I shush, you don't suck. That's what I was trying to avoid. Um, Talk Studio is a in-browser streaming application that I can use to broadcast without having anything downloaded on this computer. Because a it's not set up to do a good quality stream with gaming and stuff like that. So putting OBS on it is pretty much out of the picture. I tried briefly one time just to see if I could do it, just to see if I could make things show up in an aesthetically pleasing way and be able to use my sound alerts and all of that fun stuff. But I it didn't work. So I won't really be able to do any sort of gaming while using this laptop that I'm using. That being said, this laptop is so much better at being usable than the laptop that I was using for the whole few months when first when I first moved to the place that I'm currently living now. We've now been here for over a year, definitely a year for me, and now coming up to being a year for the spouse. Spouse moved up here at the beginning, no, at the end of December. And um, I moved here in September of last year. So, um, it's been a year I've had no computer of my own. I've been using spouse's laptop. We've been kind of juggling back and forth who's using it when and how and stuff. I've been maybe using it a little more because my spouse has been using their phone to watch uh, television shows that they're currently looking into and stuff like that while I use the laptop because my phone has a big huge crack through it because I dropped it pretty much immediately after getting it. Um, but when I'm not using the laptop, I'm doing other things, and I should be doing other things. I shouldn't just be gaming the whole time. I think you may have told me you prefer Bard, but before, but I don't remember, which is why I defaulted to Wayward. I will try to use just Bard from now on. Thank you, Cozy. I appreciate that. Um, I don't It was a while ago, so I don't even remember anything else about it. Every time somebody says it though, I chuckle because I'm like, "Is it the English nerd major thing, me, that's, like, getting particular about it?" I don't know. Um, it doesn't matter. It's not even a big deal. Where was I? Streaming stuff, using this thing. So, in order to use Talk Labs or Talk Studio, which is a, Streamlabs thing. I think I'm only able to use the streaming part of it, not the wow, it's just jiggling because I keep touching the damn table it's on. The stream part of it, I'm only able to use, I think maybe once a week. I can use it for editing videos and stuff, but I wouldn't be able to broadcast, I think is the correct term in this case. Um, wow, the cloud just came over. The cloud just came over the sun and the light in my space just you saw the dim, I'm sure. Anyway, um, or maybe you didn't because Cozy's modding in another chat. Uh, so I don't know how often I'm gonna be able to broadcast stream. And I am not set up for recording streams, though I have also considered that as an option because I can sit down and I can do the read and with all of the pauses and stuff too to make up for the ad breaks and stuff like that if I were to do that and then do it that way. That's an option. I just hadn't decided if that's what I wanted to do or not. Although I guess it is something I could do even after I get my rig back because that would make it so that I could be streaming every day, whether or not I'm actually doing the stuff behind the camera. Yeah, some people do that. I've definitely seen people and their stuff on, especially on like ASMR channels. There will be a whole like pre-recorded or re-recorded stuff that they're posting that's playing for people to be able to turn on and listen to that way. And I know like the MST3K channel does that, and some of the radio channels do that. If I say a word again, please tell me. I will try to do better. Okay, that is all. And I am fully listening now. It's okay if you're not fully listening. You could be doing other stuff. I don't care. I'm just yapping. I'm just yapping. There's nothing I have nothing important to say. I can't even necessarily report on anything interesting that's been going on in my life because it's been pretty uneventful. I haven't really been doing much of anything because I've been broke as hell. Uh, we we got our first food stamps drop in like a month, 2 months. Or something like that the other day, a couple days ago. So we ordered some like non-perishables for the first time in a while. Listen, Bart, I missed one of my best buddies, okay, and I'm excited to see you live. Aw, thank you, Cozy. Hopefully I'm talking at a decent enough volume that the computer is picking me up. If I'm not speaking loud, please say something and I will do better. I've been trying to work on the volume of my voice because my spouse has mentioned a few times that I have a tendency to go loud at times. So I'm trying to begin. Takanomi, thank you so much for coming in. That was a moment of me being loud. I'm sorry. So good to see you. Thank you for coming by. Um, well, so life stuff. Coming back to what I was saying before I got distracted and ADHD off into another thing. Did I take my meds today? I need to check. Chat, make sure you've taken your meds. I didn't. Oh my god. It is 1 in almost 1:30, and I haven't taken my meds. Good grief. I'm so bad. Take your meds, chat. Excuse me. Wow, that was awful. Also, hi everyone. Chat's a little few in the people because I'm sure nobody was expecting uh me to go live. So like I don't know how long I'm gonna be live because my spouse will eventually be getting home and he gets really awkward when I'm doing live stream stuff in the same room with him. He doesn't want to walk around because of being seen, even if I have blur on, et cetera. It's the whole thing. Usually, what I try to do when I go live during that kind of stuff is try to be in another room. The idea here is that um, I'm gonna have my own little office to do that in, so he doesn't have to worry about tiptoeing around me because he's such a goober. I will have to dip soon, though, as it is almost 3 for me. That's okay, cozy. I will have to self-mod, which is fine. That's okay. Like I said, I'm not super expecting a big crowd of people or anything. Um, so what am I coming back, trying to rewind and find my trains of thought. They're all going at the same speed and they're all converging into the same metaphors. Anyway, hello, Fairy Raven. Thank you for coming by. It's nice to see you. I'm doing okay. We were just catching up. I know it's been a while since I've gone live, and I was mentioning why. Um, so if I do decide for however long I still need to use this um, service in order to stream, I probably will. I probably will take the laptop downstairs and use space down there. And hopefully the quality of the stream will still be good. The only problem I have noticed when I went downstairs the last time I did something was that because of the house we live in is a bit older, I could hear my spouse walking around upstairs. So that is a small-ish concern. Um, I might have to have him do a walk around up here while I'm down there just to see how much it comes up in terms of like volume um on the audio recording, on the audio pickup for this. Uh and if it becomes too much of a problem, I might just have to ask that one of the rooms upstairs be um the office space for recording. Maybe. We'll see. We'll see what happens. How old is the laptop? This laptop, I think, is maybe 2 years old. The thing is that it's not built for streaming. It is only really meant to be used for web browsing and watching videos on, like, platforms and stuff, not for gaming and stuff like that. Do I have Audacity? I used to see what the mic picks up without starting to stream. We don't have it on this laptop. It's an idea though, and that's actually a really fantastic tip. Thank you, Takanami. I will definitely check that when I get my actual rig back and see. I'm really nervous to set it up downstairs only for that to happen. Uh, I might if we do keep it downstairs, I might have to be like um what do I wanna say? Like, selective as to when I want to stream or tell him to stay the hell out of areas where I can hear him walking around. Uh, we'll have to see. Um, maybe we'll figure something out. Because I plan to stream for at least a couple hours when I do stream, and I don't want him to not be able to get food and stuff out of the kitchen, and the kitchen, I believe, is directly above what would be my office. That That's, uh that's another thought, though, because I don't think I can hear, um, the floor creaking in the kitchen from downstairs. God, I kinda wish he was here just so we could test it on stream. Um, and it could also just be that I get, like, noise canceling, stuff software or set up the, hardware for that. I think that's a thing. I think I could like not hardware necessarily, but like I was already planning to do like padding and stuff um around the room to kind of help with sound bounce and stuff, reverberation, things like that. I use NVIDIA broadcasting for my mic. It does pretty good not picking up background noise. I don't know if it would work with other laptops. It's not gonna, like I said, this laptop is not a permanent um thing. I don't intend to use this for more than a little bit of time, I'm hoping. This is kind of a soft return back to streaming. And I can definitely do um, some reading, some ASMR stuff while using this laptop, assuming I can stream more than once a month using the Talk Studio stuff. This is all a lot of speculative things, just trying to figure out because I'm really hoping that we can actually get all our stuff really shortly because it's mid November and where I am in the world, it starts to snow around this time. We had some snow a couple days ago. It really was dusting type of snow. It didn't get thick, it didn't stay, but I happen to know on good authority that it can and it will get cold enough that we can actually store produce and things on the balcony. And we already have talked about that for things like onions and potatoes and stuff. We've already been talking about that. And that was actually I was one of the things I was talking about before I forgot my train of thought again. Uh, we had the first, food stamps drop in a couple months, and we bought some perishables. And also, in addition to that, we have had these produce cards that were offered to us through a community outreach program. They're about to expire, and there is still, funds on both of them. So we have been trying to kind of burn through that so that we don't lose that money that we had. We weren't using it very often, very frequently. We were only using it as a supplement because we didn't realize that it was going to expire. We thought of it more as like a sort of reloadable gift card situation. And I might even ask them, well, they wouldn't do that because of it, the whole point of it being the way that it is. So we got to collectively, my spouse and I got a absolute fuck ton of produce with the intention of doing some processing with it, like cutting it up and blanching it and putting it in things and stuff like that, so that it doesn't go bad in the short amount of time that we have it, because that's what happens with fresh produce. If you don't use it within its shelf life, it will spoil, and then you will feel like a terrible person for having spoiled a bunch of food. Or at least I do. Consistently, I feel awful when I let food spoil, and that might have a lot to do with childhood trauma related things, with food security things, and that sort of stuff. I have been wow, my mouth is so dry. I have been, um, not great about doing the amount of cooking and things that I originally said I was gonna do. I This kitchen is significantly better than, um, the kitchens that we had when we were living in Arizona. The last kitchen in the apartment we had, or the rental we had before this one, was really, high tech, I wanna say. I kinda miss that kitchen because it did some pretty like, it had some pretty cool things. The oven had a bread proofing option, and, uh, some of the appliances had little melodies that they played, like the dishwasher, for instance. As soon as the dishwasher was done, it did a little song, and I believe both the oven also did a little song when the preheat option was done, and it's like, on the one hand, it's like, it reminds me of, like, droids from Star Wars and stuff. And that's not and it's and it was cool. It was helpful in those ways because I would again, I have ADHD, in case you didn't already know, and I forget pretty much everything immediately. The if I'm doing something, I will if anything interrupts me, even myself, I will immediately forget what I was doing and have to hopefully backtrack quick enough that I'll pick it up where I left it off. Otherwise, I will forget it entirely. So, uh having those alerts helps, and I've set up my phone and my I have a smartwatch and stuff to try and help me with that, but then I get into this, like, um, pushback mental childhood thing where it's like, it beeps to tell me I need to do it, and my brain is like, "Well, now I'm not gonna." So it's a struggle. It's a struggle all by itself. How fun is that? So getting into the habit of, actually keeping routines and stuff has been challenging, obviously. Um, I'm working on it, though. And I've had a lot of ideas while I've been away on some things that I would like to try and do more in terms of content and activities and stuff as a way to kind of use um, my platform as a way to keep myself accountable to some things. And that includes, oh, got a snack, do a stretch, whatever. And I will continue to ramble, ramble, ramble for the people who are still here and maybe using Turbo or whatever to yap, to mitigate ads and stuff. Also, if you haven't, you can always, sub to me. That's always nice. No pressure, obviously. You don't have to, but it's always nice, right? Uh, so yeah, trying to break down the produce, washing it and cleaning it, and trying to meal plan some with it. We need some, um, we need some proteins to help me a little bit. We have a lot of beans, and I really need to. I also really need to do some figuring out with the beans to maybe use more rather than as much animal protein. Animal protein these days has been really expensive. Welcome back from the ad folk. Um, from the ad break, sorry. Not using my brain very well today. Um, talking about food prep with the produce and the food stamps card. Food stamps card is obviously going to linger a lot longer than the produce card. Need to use the produce card before it runs out. Bought a lot of produce to try and help with that. Need to use the produce, need to do planning and prepping and stuff like that while also not having a nice big kitchen table to work on. So I only have my counters to work on, and most of my countertops are covered with stuff. Um, it's a terrible habit. We don't have as much storage space in this kitchen. This kitchen is a little smaller than the last one, and it's a little older than the last one. It doesn't have all the fun, devices like the musical dishwasher and oven with with the bread proofing and the dehydrating options. I think when and if ever being the emphasis, when and if I ever have my own large appliances in a kitchen that I'm actually maybe owning. Wouldn't that be nice? Wouldn't that be swell in this economy? I probably will look into um, ovens and stuff that have those features because I think the bread proofing feature sounds really awesome if I intend to keep up with the bread baking that I've been doing, having the sourdough starter and all that. Same thing with the dehydrating. That means I wouldn't have to buy a separate dehydrator. It would just be included in the oven, which means that I could do any of the fruit and vegetable drying that I was thinking about doing. Um, that includes making specific things like fruit snacks. That was actually something I was thinking about doing today. We have probably a half pound of apples that have gone to a state that the spouse doesn't like to eat them raw. He finds them mealy and grainy and stuff like that. So, what I have been previously doing and would like to continue to do with apples like that is to make applesauce or apple butter or whatever so that they're not going to waste. I realized yesterday and this afternoon that another thing that I could do with them is dry them, like I mentioned, but also to make fruit leather. I made a bunch of apple pectin recently. So it's still in the fridge in jars not being used because I haven't made any jam yet with it, which is what I was originally intending to use it for. Um, so making jam and making fruit leather. And then what adding the pectin does to the fruit leather is it makes it a little bit more chewy rather than have the fruit leather to be really dry and maybe a little crispy. So I'm gonna have to experiment a little bit with that to see how best to use it. Because with the fruit leather specifically, it dries out, it dehydrates, it removes all of the liquid. So what's left of the pectin when it's not liquidy, will it work well, specifically the apple pectin in this application? I don't have a blender right now or a food processor or even my stick immersion blender. All of that stuff is in addition to my rig and all of that still in storage. And probably one of the most frustrating, irritating things of everything is when we left on Exodus last year. We had put aside my tea kettle so that it would be one of the first things that I could use when we got into the new place. This tea kettle is not your standard tea kettle where you put water in it, you press a button, it produces hot water. No, this is an actual proper tea kettle that actually does temperature programming. The basket raises and lowers according to time so that you get a proper brew. And I got something stuck on the inside of my mouth. I don't want to pick my teeth on camera. So give me, hang on a second. There we go. I think I got it. Yeah, I got it. Okay. Um, so it's time, it's temp, the basket raises and lowers. It's a really nice tea kettle. I've had this kettle, oh my God, probably close to a decade now, I want to say. I'm almost positive it's been over a decade because it was back when I was still living in, I want to say Kenmore, not Kenmore, Kirkland. Maybe Kenmore. Anyway, that doesn't matter. What matters is it was a while ago. I know it was when I was in Washington, and it's been at least 7 years plus since I lived in Washington. So, um, I had this tea kettle for a while. It's a really good tea kettle. If it ever were to break, you know, um, knock on wood, if it ever were to break, I would probably want to get another one, the same or better. Stop hitting the table, Birdie. Come on. Um, I also really need we used to have a rotisserie, which you'd think, knowing what it does, that it would be not used very often. But as it turned out, because we got it from, my mother-in-law, as it turned out, we really loved using the rotisserie, like, all the time. We would get, chicken drumsticks, for instance, and put them in the rotisserie basket since you couldn't necessarily put it on the spit like a whole bird, but the rotisserie basket would be set up in such a way that it would rotate still the same as if it were a whole bird, and that was banging. Um And both of us were really mad when the rotisserie broke, and we looked at each other and we're like, "Okay, that's just one of the first things we're gonna get when we can." And we would like to get it new so that we don't have to worry about how long it'll last and that sort of stuff. But of course, me being me, every time we did have gone to the thrift store, I've always looked to see if I could find one. Same thing with like if we could find a stand mixer. Stand mixers are expensive. Even the low end ones are really expensive, and I would absolutely love to have a stand mixer for so many reasons. It would make, certain food applications so much easier having a stand mixer, but I am not made of money, and I have to constantly remind myself that as much as I love cooking, as much as having these appliances would be really awesome, uh, I need to pick and choose my battles when it comes to things like that. Like, I would absolutely kill to have a just even a manual, hand movable, pasta maker, like a pasta sheet, uh, thingy, uh, so that I can get really thin sheets of pasta so that I can hand cut them and shape them and stuff like that. When I showed interest in that, the spouse looked at me like, "We don't need that." Um, that seems a little unnecessary. It's not a high need, high requirement thing. And I'm like, "You don't understand. I could make so much pasta. We could have pasta all the time, but I shouldn't be." I know, like, dietary wise, I need to be better about my food choices, and having pasta all the time would be not the best choice for me. Um, I don't know if I even wanna talk about health related stuff right now. Um, I've learned a lot of health related stuff about myself this year that is concerning. And I guess I would say none of it is shocking to learn, knowing what I know about my grandparents and my parents and all of that. It comes to no surprise that some of these things have come up in my recent diagnoses. But it does bum me out a lot because it's if I had known that these things were going to happen to me, would I have made a better attempt in my younger years to try and prevent those things from happening? Some of it I've known and tried to prevent sooner, but I ran up against the wall of healthcare and um, insurance saying, "No, you can't do that for whatever reason." They didn't wanna cover it, or I wasn't the age where insurance felt it was necessary to get those things. Like, I'm having part that's part of something that I'm frustrated with right now is insurance is like, "Well, you haven't tried all of these alternatives in order to prove that you've exhausted your options." And I'm like, "Yes, the hell I have." Uh maybe maybe I don't have the, um, documentation, readily available. I would probably have to do a bunch of requests for information documents and have them sent over, blah, 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 but I know for a fact that I've used all of these medications you're suggesting I try first, and I've done all these things in terms of, like, physical therapy and seeing specialists and stuff like that, so just give me the damn medication. why are we fighting about this? It's because they don't want to pay for it. They want me to pay for it, and I can't pay for it because I'm broke. That's how this works. And oh, being broke means having no health care. Without it either costing a lot or not being covered because of the fact that nobody wants to pay for that. It's frustrating, to put it mildly. Um, it's really frustrating. I want to be healthy, and I am doing dietary and lifestyle changes to try and help, but it's not going fast enough. Uh, for instance, the heart stuff that I got diagnosed. Um, when I went in initially, because I knew it was an issue, I knew it was going to come up, and I needed to get the ball rolling on it. She looked at me and she said, "Well, we don't have to worry about preventative stuff probably for another 5 to 10 years." Um, but I knew it was gonna show up. Stuff was gonna show up because I was already on um, specific heart medication to try and help with cholesterol related stuff. So, of course, I did the tests that they asked me to do. One of the tests wasn't covered by insurance, so I have to pay out of pocket for it. But most importantly, it did show that I needed to be handling this stuff right now. I couldn't wait. So, potentially, I'm going to be starting one medication. I'm waiting for the insurance to accept my doctor saying, "Listen, it needs to be done. They're already on these things. It's not proving to be working efficiently enough. We need to get them on these other things." Um, but I recently also went to the ER. I was having some pain, unexplainable pain, and it became concerning enough that when I called the nurse line to ask, "Hey, what do you think I should do?" They said, "We can't really give you a good advice without it having any kind of imaging. And if you've been having this pain for more than an hour consistently, you should probably go to the ER." So I did that. And I was in the ER probably close to 4.5, 5 hours. But in the time that I was there, they did a bunch of tests for me, tests that normally I wouldn't have been asked to do because they were trying to figure out what the hell was wrong. And of course, by the end of the time that I was there, uh, the pain proved to be inexplainable and also non-emergent. So they sent me home. But I'd had a MRI of my abdomen and a couple different blood related tests, and turns out I also have some liver stuff going on. So heart stuff and liver stuff, and thankfully not reproductive health stuff right now, but it's what's the word I want to use? Well, I mean it another phrase I could use. It's eye-opening um to realize that these things have been happening to me and I haven't shown symptoms necessarily. The one of the problems with having the cholesterol issues specifically with my heart is that um I'm not getting enough oxygen circulating through my body because my heart has to work extra hard. So sometimes when I can't breathe, I thought it was directly related to exercise induced asthma instead of being a issue with cholesterol in my heart moving blood and not having enough oxygen in my blood for that. I'm still using the inhaler as needed when it's really, really bad, but it's not for what I initially thought it was for. Um, things like that. And I've had those symptoms specifically, those symptoms for a while. I didn't even realize, um, I just avoided situations where those symptoms would have become aggravated. So, but also in doing so, I was uh, maybe not doing the kinds of exercises that they would have preferred I did to help with all of that. This stuff is not very lighthearted. I should really get away from it, but it's like this is the kind of stuff that's been going on, and it's the stuff I have the most to talk about right now. Um, so medication and medication adjustments, working on that. Um, I really my mind. I thoughts just flew out of my head. Good job. Good job. Pat on the head. I have been deep in the sauce for a RPG group that's been posting videos now for over a month. Um, it's a survival multiplayer drama related RPG that's been going on. Uh, I was introduced to it because one of my streamers um, is involved. And when I found out it was a story driven multiplayer survival, my interest was piqued. Lurk time. Have a good stream. Thank you, buddy. Enjoy your lurk. Um, what was I saying? The sauce. Getting into the sauce. So I've been. You are not alone with all the healthy stuff. I have a bunch of problems too. Just saying. That's what do I say to that? Um, pound it, I guess. It's good to know I'm not alone. It's better to know I'm not alone because I have people I know or people who communicate with me that I can talk to about this stuff too. Um, it can be disheartening when you're not socializing with other people and you're going through a lot of stuff. I have a therapist too, and I've been talking to the therapist a lot about it. Health, yeah. Talking to the therapist about it. I also had a friend, a very good friend, recently pass uh, unexpectedly about a month ago. Pretty sure it was heart related. Like I'm pretty sure it was a heart attack that took her, and like I'm still processing that, and I'm also processing the fact that thank you, thank you, Raven. Um, I also lost my cat a couple months ago, and we had another cat who we had recently adopted who also went. This one's a little bit more recently, but it's been a lot in the last few months of stuff just happening back to back and trying to process that in addition to my health related stuff. And that has made me feel a little fatalistic. Um, so I've been talking to the therapists about that and trying to get my meds in a place where I don't um, fall apart too much on the regular. Oh my god, I lost a pet a few months ago too. Um, big hugs, Raven. It's always really hard to lose a companion. Um, I talked about Charlie a lot on stream, and a lot of my social media had pictures I had taken of Charlie. Um, I'd had him for 18 years. Um, he was my baby. He was my baby, and his brother had passed away 7 or 8 years prior, and I'd had him for 11 years. So he outlived his brother by 7 years, and, in both cases, it was really hard. It is really hard. I'm, uh, still processing that too. Uh, it really sucks with the ADHD time blindness thing because there are times where it feels like it literally just happened, and there are times where it feels like it's been years, and it's inconsistent how I time for another ad break. Damn it, I really need to pay better attention as to when they're coming up. The the stream app on the phone doesn't show it the same way so that I can, um wow, brain, why are you not working? Um, so that I can snooze them. I should I should look into that. I might have to figure out how to fix that. How frustrating. Oh, wow. I'm looking at my stuff. Oh, one of the people that I follow took me off their VIPs. That's a bummer. But then it looks like um somebody else added me as a MIP or a VIP. Oh, I know who this is now. That's fair. That's fair. Mm. Sorry to hear about your losses and wishing you the best. Thank you, Takanomi. I don't know if you're in ad hell or not, so I'm just gonna send you a quick text message in the chat about it. If I can get my stuff to work. Dang it, Takanomi. Stop. Go away. Thank you. Thank you for coming by, Takanomi. If you're seeing this, I don't know because I haven't gotten notice that the ad is over yet. Um, from Raven. Oh wow, I had a tortoise for 17 years. He was a rescue, so he was a lot older than that. Yeah, but he was my baby as well, and I miss him so much. Yeah, that's really that's really hard. So, like I said, it's really hard to lose a companion. Stop, stop hitting the table, Birdie. Um, I one of the animated emotes is Charlie, and I debated whether or not I wanted to keep it, to be honest. It doesn't necessarily feel irrelevant the same way it did anymore, but part of me feels like it would be good to keep just as a nice thing. Uh, I was also thinking about adding a redeem. I definitely understand losing him and having a lot of health issues. I've been feeling pretty down about my life as well. Yeah, definitely, Raven. I was thinking about setting up a redeem that was like a flower for Charlie or a pet for Charlie or something as like a low cost redeem point redeem. as a way to just like honor his memory and stuff. And I might do that. I'm definitely thinking about doing that um, when I can properly have my redeems back up on screen and stuff again. Um, yeah, I miss him a lot. I miss both of them a lot. I miss my friend. She had we I had moved away first, and she moved away also. She was living in, I want to say, California, and but we were still messaging each other pretty semi regularly, just sharing love and support when we could. And when thoughts came up, we had thoughts about each other sometimes, and we would send each other messages, as you do. That's another thing I'm learning a lot more about adult friendships. My adult friendships are online coded. Um, as I'm sure most people can say these days, most of my friends growing up were online friends. I moved around a lot as a child, and because of that, I didn't have a lot of people who were present in my daily life that I could call friends, um, that I could call long term, long lasting friends. It just didn't work out that way. And my social skills are a little underdeveloped, let's say. So it's been hard to keep friends, people in person IRL friends. So a lot of my friends, most of my friends have been long distance friends, online friends. And I thought when I settled in one place and I was there for longer than a year, that that meant that I would develop better friendships with normal-esque, local-ish people. But I've come to realize that a lot of people my age usually have families and children and um, spouses and activities that they have to do, and there isn't a whole lot of time for hanging out. A lot of the time, they are busy. They have obligations and responsibilities, so it becomes a situation where I find myself having to reconnect via online messages and memes and chatting and stuff like that at weird hours of the day and night when they're able and such to do those things. And, you know, it sucks. It sucks not being able to hang out with my friends in person. Um, but that doesn't mean I love them any less or that I don't enjoy talking to them less. One of my longest friends ever, uh, over 2 decades of friendship, was started as a online friendship. We met through, uh, online, like, live journal slash greatest journal, which is definitely aging me by saying those things out loud. Um, through RPGs that way, like, writing RPGs that way, and we became really fast friends, and our friendship just grew and grew, and now, I can't imagine not having her as my bestie. And that being said, do we talk regularly? No. But when we do talk, we always end up talking for 3 or 4 hours, so that's funny to me, that those types of things happen, and I can always tell when the friendship, excuse me, when the chat conversation, the phone call is starting to die because we'll revert to some really classic inside joke type things, or we'll start to get really, not negative, but definitely, like, whiny and bitchy about, some stuff that's been grinding our gears recently, rather than having the giggly, goofy, laughing stuff conversations that we normally spend the first 3 hours talking about. Um, And I've always been a yapper, always. There were times in the length of our friendship where we talked about having, like, a podcast or something like that, just randomly talking about the kind of goofy ass shit that we would spend our 3 plus hour conversations on. And uh, we also have similar special interests too, so we can always talk in extended sessions about those things, just long conversations about those things. So, um, I have to now, as a semi-regular content creator, maybe find a way to do those things myself, since it's something that I'm still actively trying to do. She is currently a hotel manager, so she doesn't have that kind of time. And I'm so proud of her. Like, I'm so proud of all of my friends who have successful careers and lives. And yeah, a part of me will always be a little envious, but I also know, like, with my bestie that, yeah, she's the manager of a hotel, but she hates it. It's not something that gives her any sort of joy. She gets really frustrated and angry with her staff a lot, and I know personally that she has a bit of a temper. So she has to, like, really curb that in her professional life, but then she'll get to complain and bitch about it to me when we talk, and I feel like it's good that I'm able to help her with that. Even if I can't really say a whole lot in terms of, like, not empathy, relating to those problems, I can definitely be like, "Yeah, that person's a fucking asshole," and, "Yeah, you shouldn't have to deal with that," and things like that, and she appreciates it. Um, I've had friends who are very, like, uh, solution oriented, where I'll tell them something that's pissing me off, frustrating me, whatever that's going on in life, and they'll try and find ways to fix it. And I'm like, I'm not looking for that right now, buddy. Uh, I appreciate that you want to help me not have to experience those things anymore, but I am just aggro, and I just need to be aggro about it, and I need you to be like, "Yeah, they suck," I need that kind of support rather than the solutions to fixing my problems. I do a lot of I personally find myself, doing a lot of solution seeking when I'm talking with other friends or when I'm by myself doing my own thing, trying to figure out ways to fix what's going on. I am so thirsty. I'm gonna no, there's still a little bit in here, but I'm gonna need to get up and get some more in a minute. I'll wait until I I'll wait until another ad break, and then I'll do it then. Um, Solution seeking. I do it a lot myself. I do it a lot for myself, and I do it a lot for other people that talk to me. And I have to remember not everybody is looking for solutions when they are talking to you about what's going on in their lives and they're frustrated. Sometimes they just need somebody to support them and what they're going through and side with them. Sometimes they need, even if you don't necessarily think they made the right choice, it's not necessarily your job to tell them they made a wrong choice or that they made uh, a choice that you don't align with or you don't agree with. Sometimes you just need to put that stuff to the side and let them experience their life and have you be there for them, you know? And maybe later you can talk about whether or not it aligned with your feelings and opinions and stuff like that. But there's always a time and place for those types of conversations, if that makes sense. Um, Sometimes, I mean, it's okay to have friends who see things differently as long as your core values are still being honored and respected. Like, I would never be friends with someone who's openly homophobic. I would never be friends with someone who's openly, racist, those types of things. I would not do those things. I don't wanna be associated with those types of people. If I find out that somebody is doing that with other people, I usually will distance myself immediately. I will usually make it a point to disassociate with those people. Uh, in a lot of cases, unless they're showing any sort of active attempt to learn and grow and better themselves. And one of the things that happens as a person who's openly queer, as a person who's actively trying to get away from those things, a lot of people look to you as as a person to help educate them, and it requires a lot of um, social currency. I think is maybe a good phrase for it. You're not necessarily getting um, paid for that emotional labor. And it can be exhausting to be friends with those types of people if you don't have those reserves. I had a friend when she first moved to my area, which was a lot more of a queer friendly, queer area of town. And she was still learning some stuff about herself in terms of how she identified and what she felt comfortable with. Things she didn't necessarily have access to knowledge-wise. She leaned really heavily on me for those moments, trying to figure them out, trying to understand, trying to, give terminology to things that she had felt most of her life. I was able to provide those things. I was something of her fairy godparent, in those ways. Being an elder, a queer elder for younger people who are learning about themselves, and it's not the first time I've had those conversations. I had a friend from high school time, like, I was in high school and she was in junior high school, and I was volunteering at the local library, and that's how I came to know her, and we grew older, and we still kept in contact, and she sent me a message one time, and I still really it still touches my heart when I think about her sending this message. She said, you know, "It was so important for me," these are her words, "It was so important for me to have someone display what it was like to be a mature, responsible queer person, like, a person who was living their life and who wasn't being a degenerate or wasn't being, super flamboyant, wasn't making it, like, the most important part of their personality. Like, I was just a quote, unquote, "regular person" who just happened to be queer, and it meant a lot to have someone like that in her life, and she was really grateful, and it really helped her realize who she was and how she identified because she had been figuring that out in the whole time that I got to watch her grow as a person. And I was able to help her do that by giving her the language for it, by showing her that it was safe to do those things and how to stop shaking the fucking table. Um, that there were people that she could align herself with that would be in her court, who would support her and defend her, and she could feel safe with those people. That's not always the case for a lot of people out there in the world. There's not always a lot of people who do that. There's not always a family can be touch and go. Friends can be touch and go. It's really important to build a network of people who will be there for you, who will support you in your life choices and your lifestyle and your personality and all that stuff. And I've always been one of those people for a lot of my friends because of the fact that I kind of go off the beaten path a lot. I And a lot of that might have to do with being neurodivergent. It's definitely something that I've noticed with other neurodivergent people. We tend to not really stick with the quote unquote cultural norm. We tend to kind of go off on our own in our own way, in our own direction. And a lot of us will feel like we're doing that by ourselves until we're able to find other people. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, there's already this network of people who feel and think and behave this way and I didn't know until now, and it feels like coming home in those situations. Unless you're kind of a reclusive person like me, in which case it takes a little while to remember and find groups that provide those networking opportunities, friendships, and activities and stuff like that. I need to make a better attempt at trying to do that now that I'm here, now that I'm in a place that I want to call home permanently. Um, it's important for me to try and develop those interpersonal IRL relationships and friendships. But I worry as anybody with the trauma and neurodivergent tendencies that I have, I worry about putting myself out there and being friends with people and potentially having them reject me and turn me off, turn me away. And I guess that's another reason why I'm so grateful for my spouse because my spouse has always been in my corner and will always be there for me. And I'm grateful for that. So grateful. Because I spent a lot of my time in my life, in my adult life and my young adult life and going through life in general, I spent a lot of time feeling really lonely and feeling like I didn't have anybody who really understood me and wanted to be around me for the rest of it, whatever that means. Um, yeah, like I said, I'm yapping a lot about a lot of different stuff. Um, so work has been pretty, I don't want to say great necessarily. Work is work. Work is work. I'm I appreciate the work that I'm doing, but as my spouse has pointed out a few times now, maybe it's not something I want to be doing forever. Um, because of it being a certain amount of customer facing and customer facing not necessarily on my terms. Like I have agreed to do these terms and I will do them because it pays me money and I can live and survive, etc. But it's not necessarily what I want to do all the time, especially when they get frustrated and angry. I'm not good. I don't think anybody is, honestly. But I take things probably a little too personally and too sincerely when people start to get frustrated and angry with me because of my trauma, because of my neurodivergencies, all that. It can be really hard for me to shrug it off and act like nothing happened, nothing's wrong. Um, I'm grateful that in the area that I am currently living in, people have a tendency towards being a lot more kind and don't yell obscenities immediately and don't behave rude and angrily all the time. Most of the time, when people are frustrated here, it's more of a annoyance at the situation. They don't necessarily go out of their way to make you feel like you're the asshole for situations that are completely not in your control. I've definitely been in conversations as an employee where they look at me like, "Well, why can't you fix it?" I'm like, "Because I don't have the authority to do that." "Well, can't you get somebody to fix it for me?" I'm like, "Maybe in my case with the job I'm working, I'm the only person there on the weekends. I work 12-hour shifts. There isn't somebody to cover my lunch. There isn't somebody to be there if things get too busy and I need additional support. No, I'm by myself." So anything like that won't be handled until Monday. And uh, if they're mad at me, they're going to have to wait to complain about me until Monday. And in the meantime, I'm the only person who can help them with what they need because I'm the only person working. It's not a big, huge corporate thing where you can just hang up and call back and get a different person. No, it's always going to be me on the weekends. Every every single weekend unless I'm like deeply sick, which I've been gratefully, again, with the knocking on the wood, I've managed to avoid those kinds of problems. I haven't gotten really sick this year, and I'd like to keep it that way. Um, aside from like health related stuff, obviously, like those things, but I mean, I haven't caught. I haven't had a cold or a flu in a while, and I haven't had any bouts of COVID or anything like that in a while. Granted, I haven't really put myself in situations where those things would be occurring around me. But I think even if I were to do those things, if I were to go to a big group gathering of stuff, I would probably be pretty careful in terms of like having a face mask and whatever to keep myself from getting sick. I don't want to get sick. I hate being sick. I don't like, and I don't trust groups of people to not take uh take precautions to prevent other people from being sick. That's a very American problem I've noticed. Um, and that was something that I even noticed when COVID was still first coming into the country and happening. I thought about how in Asian countries, most of them have a like a it is a social responsibility to actively take care of each other in terms of things like getting sick. You Pre-COVID, you could see a lot of media, like news media, or even just some Asian related uh, entertainment, where if somebody was in the background and wearing a mask because they were sick, and nobody asked them to do it, they were just doing it. It was a socially acceptable, socially responsible thing. People here people in America are getting better about it, but it's not something that a lot of people automatically do. A lot of people just they don't care about that anymore the way that a lot of Asian countries did or do. And definitely with the whole anti-vax trends, um, it's another thing people don't necessarily care about is the health of others. Um, I can't necessarily say that that's a new trend by any means, but like I definitely remember being a kid growing up and things like chicken pox parties existed. Where one kid who had chicken pox, uh, they would tell the other moms, and all the other moms would bring their kids over so that they would be exposed to chicken pox. And now, we have learned that that kind of stuff is actually not a good idea. You shouldn't be doing that kind of stuff because of other risk factors that come out of it. What you really should be doing is inoculations. Um, Vaccinations, things like that, prevent those things because they're safer and they don't cause lasting repercussions like that happen when you have things like quote unquote chicken pox parties, stuff like that. Like, oh, it's thinking back on it now as an adult, um, growing up in that time period and that kind of stuff happening, is just you would not see something like that happening nowadays. It is not a socially acceptable thing to do that. And at the same time, specifically people like anti-vaxxers, having those symptoms and then actively going into situations and not caring about the repercussions of it, is almost like chicken pox parties, as ridiculous as that sounds. Um, where was I going with this? I swear there was a direct line of thought that immediately brought this kind of stuff up. Getting sick, social group or social events, that kind of stuff, blah, 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 blah. Not wanting to be sick because of work related stuff. I think that was the complete line of thought, I think. And then work related stuff specifically was the about the type of work. I think that was where we were going. I think that's where I was going. Um, Not wanting to do the job forever because of it being social facing or customer facing, and um how that can be difficult for me specifically. I can struggle with there it is. There it is. Struggle with customer facing because I take things a lot more personally. And for instance, I had a call. Yeah, when I get sick, it lasts a very long time, so I hate getting sick as well. Yeah. Um, what is that called? Oh my god, it's right there on the tip of my very dry tongue. Not immunity. Oh, it'll come to me. I don't wanna hold myself up though. Immune system. Immunity, immune system. My immune system can be a little weak. So I try to avoid situations where I'm putting myself in I try to avoid putting myself in situations where that can become a problem. End of that thought. End of that line of thought. While I was at work the other day, I had a customer call me really upset. And well, I should be more specific. I had to call a customer because, yeah, me too, Raven, me too. I had to call a customer because we did not have a driver. Hold. We didn't have a driver for that route. We had tried to get a driver to cover the shift. Nobody was available, nobody was accepting it, so we had to cancel that route altogether. Just for the day, but what was unfortunate was the fact that there were 2 people already they'd already made reservations for that route. So I had to call them and let them know that I needed to move them at no cost to a different time. I don't have the authority to refund them, and even if I did have that authority, I would be encouraged by corporate to avoid giving them a direct refund in the preference being to open give them an open credit for their reservation so that they can use it later. And if they choose not to use it later, it will expire and we will still have made money as a company, blah, 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 blah. So when I called her to let her know, hey, I need to move your reservation because we don't have somebody to cover the route, she was understandably pissed off about it and was taking that frustration out on me. And, my canned response being, I understand, or I'm sorry that this is happening to you, etc. And her immediate reaction, response to me saying that was, no, you don't. That was her response. No, you don't. You don't understand. You're not sorry. And hearing that out loud, personally, is upsetting to me because generally speaking, I'm not a kind of person who minces words and says things to appease other people. If I don't feel apologetic or I don't feel genuine, like, regret that I made somebody feel a certain way, I won't apologize. I won't say I'm sorry. I think a lot of people say I'm sorry as a way to fill the space. Um, you tell somebody, "Hey, I'm having a bad day," and your immediate reaction response, or at least the socially canned response in America, is to say, "Oh, I'm sorry." And me, I kind of struggle with that because of silly ass neurodivergent reasons. The main being like, I'm sorry feels like you're taking responsibility for it, but it's not like I'm having a bad day and yeah, you feel sorry, but it's not your fault. Why are you apologizing? People say I'm sorry too much and it's really lost its meaning to me. Yep, exactly. I'm trying to work on that with my spouse specifically because my spouse is really, really trained to apologize all the time because of his trauma and his um, neurodivergent stuff and the way he was raised. So he'll say, I'm sorry. Not only will he say sorry one time, but he'll say it multiple times in the same sentence, in the same event. And for a while, I didn't say anything, but then I got to a point where I was like, please stop apologizing, which was bad for both of us because he wanted to express feelings, be they empathy, sympathy, taking responsibility, but not knowing how to express that. And it wasn't good for me because I was telling him what to do, and that's not a good thing to do in any relationship to tell somebody else how to be, how to do, how to exist. And I was finally able to get to a point with my spouse. I'll come back to the work stuff in a second because I just want to finish this specific thought where I explained to my spouse that if you're going to apologize for me, I would really appreciate it if you would tell me why you're apologizing. Like, I'm sorry you're having a bad day. I'm sorry that I upset you by doing this action. I'm sorry that um, this event happened to you. I can see that you're upset and that sort of thing. Like giving more explanation to the sorry. And especially if it's a case of, I'm sorry that I upset you with this action. For me, it's like, it's nice of you to acknowledge that you upset me, but without action to prove that you don't want that to happen again or that you acknowledge that you made a mistake, it's really important to follow words with action. It's really, specifically to me, it's really important. If you're going to apologize for it, I don't want to hear in a week that you made the same mistake and you apologize about it again. That was something that took place in my house growing up a lot, specifically with my male parent, where he would, after a long, hard experience of trying to get him to admit to any sort of wrongdoing, because he's a fucking narcissist, um, and the worst kind of person, getting him to admit to any kind of fault, and trying to get him to be accountable and also to, God damn it. Also to not, he would apologize and then he would never actually improve. Or if he did improve, it would be for like a couple of days or a week. But he would never actually change. And I think that's something specifically that really bothers me. I'm gonna go get that water now since we're doing ads. I'm gonna step away real quick to get some water. I'll be right back. I'm taking my phone with me so I can see when the ad break is over. Be right back. Fabulous. Ads or ads have just finished. Welcome back from ads, everybody. It's like I was saying, people who apologize without taking the action to actually improve what they did to upset you or make or stop an action from being upsetting. That's really hard for me. I don't do well with people who do that because I had a parent who did that most of my life. And yeah, when there's no explanation, it's like, do you even know why you're saying you're sorry? Exactly. And yeah, I'm the same way. I need actions. And I deal with the same mistakes a lot with no changes too. It's really frustrating, especially when you specifically spend all your energy trying to communicate what you need and then the same shit keeps happening over and over. Exactly. That is exactly what it is, Raven. Um, and that's something that I'm working on with my spouse. He gets really emotionally overwhelmed sometimes, and he'll say sorry because he feels like he needs to express his guilt. And I can relate to that. I can definitely relate to feeling guilty and wanting to express feeling guilt and not knowing how to say so, and getting stuck in my own head and my own emotions and not being able to speak cogently, um, and in some cases coherently. I can be a bit of a blubber when I get really emotional. It can be really hard for me to speak in a way that properly conveys my thoughts and feelings. Um, me and my spouse very specifically, are have made a lot of what am I trying to express? We have both been in relationships and in environments growing up where a lot of yelling and shouting and screaming and insults were flung around, and in some cases, physical violence happened. And we both really actively try to avoid those situations with each other. We don't raise our voices. And if we do start to raise our voices, or if the person who's upset starts raising their voices, we make a point of pointing that out. And on a couple occasions, there have been situations where we've given each other permission to raise our voices because, especially with my spouse, he has a difficulty not speaking slowly. And part of the reason that he speaks slowly is because he wants to make sure that he's properly conveying what he's thinking. And he's not a fast thinker necessarily, in situations that require conversation, like human interaction, personable, social interaction. He is very, very thoughtful and he cares a lot. And it makes him really frustrated and angry when people will try to get him to speak faster, myself included, by filling in words for him. Like he'll be trying to say a sentence and he's trying to find a word, and I'll start to fill it in for him. And it pisses him off to no end. And other people, like, I don't wanna say most people, but a lot of people, if you try to provide a word for them, they'll just flow with it. Either they'll say, "Yeah, exactly," or they'll say, "No, not that," and it'll just be a thing that it's a very common social interaction, for people to try and help each other find words and stuff. And when you become really good friends with people, a lot of times you feel like you know what they're gonna say. You have a pretty good idea what they're gonna say. So you're thinking along the same time with them as they're saying their sentences, you're already trying to think ahead a little bit. If that's not a normal thing that most people deal with, I'll be utterly shocked. But he doesn't like it at all. It bothers him when people try to fill out, and even like with his kids. Um, they'll try, especially the youngest one. She gets especially frustrated when she'll say something and he'll be like, "Huh?" And she'll say, "Are you not listening?" And it's not that he's not listening, it's that he has, processing issues. He has a processing disorder. So if he's not watching a person's mouth move, it can be difficult for him to sometimes understand, like comprehend what a person is saying at the same time that they're saying it. Sometimes it'll take him a little longer for the words to like properly finish making sense in his brain. So he'll say, huh, but he'll also be working on it at the same time. The huh is automatic. He's been working really hard on that, and I am so proud of him for it. And he also just does it sometimes, and people will get frustrated and make him feel bad about it, and I've had to help him with that also, just helping him not be mad at people, And in this situation, when I say people, I also mean myself, because he'll get frustrated with me too. Oh, he's coming in right now. Hang on a second. I'm gonna put myself on mute, okay? I was given permission to take off mute. Yay! I do want to point out that we have a huge tin of it. I know we have it in storage stuff. I don't know where in the world, but I did want to let you know that we do have that also, like, already.
But we don't have it.
But we don't have it currently. Yes.
So
Yes.
you said get some.
Yes.
So I did.
Yes.
This is the only powder that's in a powder. I didn't want to get more fucking pod.
No, I know. We talked about it. We talked about it.
So they only had 5-pound boxes.
Yeah. 5-pound boxes of powder? That's insane.
So what was my
5 pound. Wow, is that 5 pounds?
yeah, that was a 5-pound box.
Jeez.
That's
Wow.
pretty dense.
That's crazy.
Yeah, that's why it was in the backpack to help
Yeah.
with the load balance.
Yep.
Because carrying it
In a bag,
In a
a
bag.
handbag.
would have been real stress on.
Yeah, yeah. So chat. I'm gonna try and put my hand on it so it doesn't show up as blurred. I hope it doesn't. Come on. Come on. There we go. Clearly Canadians are a purely American thing, United States American type thing. Um, it is a beverage that has existed for most of forever, but you can't always find it. This was a very common beverage you could buy at the store when I was growing up, and I loved them. They're very specifically like cane sugar and flavoring, natural flavoring. It never says what kind of flavoring. It says natural, but it's just water, cane sugar, and flavoring. It's not doesn't have any dyes or colors. It's in fruit flavors. It's not like a cola or a random, it's always a fruit flavor. I've loved these forever. My spouse knows that I love them, and whenever he goes out, he finds them for me. And they're also in glass bottles, so they're not plastic. And lots of opinions about plastic in this house. I don't want to go into them right now, but yeah, I love these a lot, and I get to have one. I get to have two. Yay, two of them. Two of them for me. This one's cherry, and this one's peach, which are two of my favorite flavors. I think they might be some of the only flavors that they have that are still available here.
5 flavors. And I know that those two are your favorites.
Yes.
Of
Mhm.
Canadian. So I specifically get you those ones.
I love these so much. I love these so much, and I love you so much. Ooh, I'm gonna try really hard not to burp all over camera. Oh, that's not what I mean when I say gross. I mean burping and farting and making bodily noises. That kind of stuff. I know some people think it's funny, but I don't like bodily noises. What can I say? These say things like that. Don't say things like that. I'm also trying really hard to avoid like sugar, like in general. That's different. I'm not going to talk about that. These aren't super like I think let me look at the calorie. 90 calories for one bottle. Um but candies and super sugary sodas, I try and avoid those types of things whenever I can. So I get like diet and stuff. And yes, we can talk about that. That's a whole thing by itself. But I also had bariatric surgery about 2 years ago. And so I've been trying to be careful about the kind of stuff that I get. I say as I buy like really trendy cookies and eat them all in one sitting. So these are caramel candies, hard candies, and they have 45 calories per 5 candies. So I can indulge in these when I have them and not feel super, super guilty. And they're pretty good in terms of their ingredients also. Um, these particular candies have isomalt as the sweetener, and then butter, cream, salt, flavoring, soy lecithin, and asulfame K, which I think is vitamin K, maybe. Anyway, I love these. Um, They have coffee ones too. Those are some of my favorite, but I love all of these candies. They are quote unquote old people candies, and I feel zero shame about it. I've always loved these candies.
I think the sulfamide A is potassium.
Oh, it's potassium. That makes sense.
K is the
Chemical substance for potassium. Yeah. You are probably right. So that would make it probably a kind of preservative in this case. Anyway, I love you. Thank you for the sweets, sweetie.
I had an adventure today.
Tell me about your venture.
Well, I was going to the market and I forgot my phone on the bus.
You forgot your phone on the bus?
I like power walked halfway to Kirby Plaza, and then a bus was coming by and he saw me power walking, so he stopped. And I was like, and he's like, I'll take that. So,
Oh, that's awesome.
so I waited for the bus to turn around and he came back over, and I guess somebody had picked up my phone and was
Oh, that's so great.
going to take it off the bus, but the driver saw it and stopped him and said, no, I need that. And so while I'm waiting there at Kirby Plaza and he pulls up, like he's holding my phone. He's like, I almost did this.
Oh, that's
like,
so good. Oh,
And then he took me over to the corner by Mount Royal and
that's so great. Oh, I'm so glad. Oh, that would have been so terrible.
yeah, considering it was the phone.
Yeah. Oh,
Like I had my other phone in
Yeah.
my pocket, but it has zero service.
yeah.
I would have to get to Wi-Fi and do anything.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And my phone has my bus pass on.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
I'm like, I have 75 cents in my pocket.
Yep.
So I can wait for off peak.
Yeah, you can wait for off peak. That's the one downside to living in a place that does that is the off peak versus not off peak. And when you're only working on freaking coins and change, dang, that sucks. That sucks a lot. So we were talking about conversations and things like social uh social responsibility and communicating with kindness and with intention. Are those mine or yours?
Oh no, these are mine.
Cool.
This
Adderall! Yay! Yay! Spouse is back on Adderall again. ADHD stuff. Yay, buddy. That's great.
just make sure nobody knows where we live.
No, they don't. I don't tell people that kind of stuff.
Your doc's my prescription.
No. No. Don't worry about it.
I got another new med.
Cool. What's it for?
For blood sugar.
Cool. Cool.
And weight loss and anti-inflammatory.
Cool. What's it called?
Metformin.
Metformin. I'll have to look that up.
It's like the second most prescribed drug in the United States.
That makes sense. That makes sense.
But it's the diabetic medicine
Oh.
and the endocrinologist was like, the American Diabetic Association doesn't say that you have to, and did it. And I'm like, okay, but in your experience, professional opinion. She's like, give me a second. And she went through my lab. She's like, I think you should do it. I'm like, okay. I'd rather get in front of it.
Yeah, definitely. I can relate to that.
1 or 2 more pills a day.
Nope. When you're already taking a cocktail, you might as well add one more if it does the job. So yeah, conversations with intent. Um, Apologies are a big one. Um, Not yelling, not shouting, but also giving each other permission sometimes because sometimes you're just really angry and it's really hard to process your stuff when you're so angry and you're actively trying to keep yourself from shouting, you know? I think that's something that more people need to practice maybe doing is giving people the space to do it and acknowledging, like having that exchange where you're giving them the permission to be angry out loud and also being like, I'm not yelling at you. I might be yelling because of you, but I don't want you to feel scared or trapped or uncomfortable because I'm upset. You know? When you've grown up in a household where people literally are screaming in your face, they're coming at you, they're actively trying to intimidate you and make you feel small and make you feel emotions, like that's their intention. Um, it can be really hard to be in a situation where other people are shouting at in your direction and not feel like it doesn't immediately transport you back into that place that you experienced as a person having traumatic things being done to you. It's really hard to separate yourself from that. So having the open communication, being able to discuss those things, being able to give those people space and also be able to experience your boundaries. It's not something that was ever taught to me. Like I had to learn this. I had to learn those kinds of communication skills. And so did you. Why are you making that face?
Did you make sure to do your not a doctor slash licensing
No,
health issue?
no. Yeah, I think that's yeah, I'm not a doctor. For anybody who's listening to this before, after, or during, I'm not a doctor. I'm just a person who's sick and has learned a lot of these things by being sick and needing to know them. Um,
Just having your ass.
yeah, yeah, yeah. This clown. Do drugs, yeah. Be gay, do drugs. Um, and that's another thing that he's always like, I have to give him permission to talk while I'm on camera, because otherwise he will feel like he can't talk. And I don't want people to not like it. He has valuable contributions to conversations that I have, either to chat or in situations with other people. I am not Here's the thing about me. I am I can be very, very chatty. I have to be careful, like, or I should say, I need to be self-aware and cognizant of my tendency to yap because I will absolutely end up dominating a conversation unintentionally because I'll just have a lot of thoughts and feelings and opinions and stuff. And I'll just talk, 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 talk. And other people will feel social responsibilities to not interrupt, um, or to not necessarily try and start a debate or an argument with you. Um, so I and I also get really excited about the thing about my special interests. So like people will be talking about this and I'll be like, "Oh," and then I'll start to talk too, and I won't let them talk and share. or I'll start to try and finish their sentences for them. All of those fun, quirky, neurodivergent tendencies to be put a bunch of weirdos in a space that all have social problems, be it neurodivergent or otherwise, and people will talk over each other and stuff. Processing for me, I can get sometimes overstimulated when it comes to overlapping voices. That's something I've always had, but just recently found the terminology for. Like, I didn't realize it until somebody said, "Oh, it's a processing thing." It can be really overstimulating to people who have um, certain neurological issues like ADHD and stuff like that because you have difficulty tracking the conversation. And it was something that really I think I became super aware of after. Yeah, thank you, Siri bot. People in chat, make sure to do yourself a little stretch and do yourself a little sippy sip and do yourself a little look away from the computer because I'm talking. You don't necessarily have to look at my face. You can look off into the distance and do some eye blinkies and stuff like that. Do those things, please. Or don't. I'm not your mom. I shouldn't say mom. Mom is a gender term. I'm not your parent. Um so yeah, overlapping voices. I was watching some streamers and I did notice that there were some because it was a group setting, there was a lot of overlapping voices and I struggled with it and a couple different times I had to stop it and there was no way for me to like in the moment adjust people's volumes so that I could understand people better. And because there weren't any captions, it was really hard for me to follow the conversations. And it made the experience of enjoying this media really difficult in that moment at least. And it wasn't scripted. It was all improv. So I get that, but also it's really hard. It was really hard for me to enjoy those first couple episodes because of the repeated overlapping conversation. And in a lot of cases, you might not necessarily be looking at somebody who's talking. It's all done through um, audio, mic, and stuff. You're not necessarily on camera at the same time, like visually on characters, so you can't see their mouths moving. Um, But I recognized it as being a problem actively the first time when I was at a D&D table, and I felt immediately really bad about having to do it because I wasn't behaving in a way that was considered socially acceptable. Um, but it's also just difficult to do that as an adult. Like, you're taught as a child, if you have something to say, you should raise your hand, but doing that as an adult is something that they look at you like, "That's very childish to do," but I can't think of any other way to do it, uh, without having, like, maybe just set up your audio stuff that you have to hold down the button, you know? But even then, it's like, there's no way to allow only one person to talk at a time, and sometimes it makes sense for people to talk and have to be overlapping, you know? I need to the light in here is so different because of the sun changing. It's not important, don't worry about it. Talking to myself and also at you guys. Uh Yeah, like, it's it was also something I noticed a lot when I would go to, like, concerts or be a kid who was going to, like, a auditorium event, and there's just so many people talking, and it just becomes so overstimulating. It can be really difficult for me to be present in those situations. So, like, that was where was I going with this? There was somewhere I was going with this. I can't remember. Um Yep, it's gone. Speaking with intent. Um, apologies. Apologies. I think we were talking a little bit about apologies. And oh my god, I'll look back at this video later and be like, "Oh, that's where I was wanting to go," but I forget I don't have myself any sort of cue cards. I need to work on that. That was something I was noticing. I watched a YouTube video or something that was talking about how to be a better streamer, how to have conversations basically to a room of 0. And one of the things they said was to, like, have ideas, things that you wanted to talk about while you were streaming, and not to just, let yourself get quiet or only talk about the game or activity that you're doing, but to, like, ask questions and answer them. If there's nobody to answer them in chat, you have to answer them yourself. And having, like, cue cards and stuff like that helps. I don't especially like talking about certain subjects, so maybe I would avoid those types of subjects just because it's something that it doesn't interest me. I'm not interested in talking about it. And maybe people in my chat will wanna talk about it, and I need to be open to some degree, like, I need to respect my own personal boundaries, and if somebody starts talking smack about certain things that make me uncomfortable, I have to be like, "Okay, you need to stop or you need to go, because this is not the place for that." Bringing that into real life is probably a good idea also. Just being better about how to communicate effectively and realizing as a adult that a lot of these skills I learned by myself, on my own. They weren't skills that were taught to me in any way. It wasn't stuff being taught to me by my parents. It was definitely not stuff that was being taught to me in school. And I didn't have a lot of adult um, role models and stuff because of the fact that we moved around a lot, because of the fact that I was really isolated because of us being so poor while I was growing up. So a lot of the stuff I learned later, and a lot of people I knew already knew those things. So um, I felt inferior to other people because I learned them so much later in my life. Here comes more ads. Dang it. Uh, yeah, it's it can be frustrating. It can be really frustrating. Learning how to bring these skills into regular use with others when I spent so much of my life not knowing them has been a challenge for sure. And I'm really grateful also that my spouse is so wonderful because some of the skills I've learned have been because of our relationship together. And he's been able to model those things for me and help me learn them and not feel inferior. I think that's a big one. Not make me feel inferior for not having already had um those skills. I'm gonna get up really quick and oh, it looks like the ads are over, but I'm gonna get up real quick and turn the light on because the light in here is really weird right now. Be right back. Is that better? Maybe. Maybe it's better. Maybe it's not better. Hmm. It's kind of better. Um, I need to finish this candy so that it doesn't crunch away on the camera. But it's so good. Oh my god. I really love those. I really love caramel flavored things. Chat, tell me some of your favorite candies and drinks and stuff in chat. So yeah, what are some things that you would like to see me up to in the future? Like, I have ideas I want to do in terms of the channel. I want to get back to doing reading. I want to do regular reading and I want to do soft spoken ASMR style reading. And with the ASMR style reading, I also want to do some ASMR triggers. I need to build my toolbox for that. And I'm doing a little bit of research in terms of that also. I have a couple people who followed me for that type of content and have told me what their preferences are. So I'm already trying to figure out how best to provide those things for them with what I currently have. Um, so I want to do reading streams. I want to do ASMR style reading streams. With the regular reading streams, I want to mix them together with Pomodoro, partly for myself to keep me on task and partly to give my voice chances to rest because that's really important for me um, to do those things, to be able to have vocal rest. I it can also be tiresome to read for a long period of time. And I love reading, so it's not necessarily a problem for me, but it might be it might become boring after a while for other people. So being able to break up with vocal rest, but also maybe to take breaks um, from just reading and also have conversations with folk during those times. So maybe doing off and on with those, or setting up like block of time either before or after or in the middle where I just do yapping. Just do yapping, no reading, no vocal breaks, that kind of stuff. I do want to game again. I miss stream gaming. I really enjoy stream gaming. There's just something about um sharing the joy of a game together. And I think I remember just recently watching a video or somebody else talking about it. I can't remember which, where it was discussed how gaming has always been a social um, activity. Even solo play has been a social activity. And I can speak from experience on that one because I can remember as a young person, my sister watching me play like Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time, for instance, and watching me play, and I would read out loud some of the characters and add voices and stuff to them. And she would enjoy that. But she would also really enjoy just watching me play, and she would be like, "Oh, what about that? What about this? Did you see that?" And that kind of stuff. Like it was always an enjoyable experience. And then there were, of course, the co-op games, the social games. So we did a lot of racing games when I was a kid. We did so much Mario Kart. And I think we also did like the versus type games too. We had a couple different versus games we played. Um, there was one that was based on clay characters. I think it was actually called Clay Fighters and something or other. And I really liked a couple different characters, and I did a lot with those. Um, so those were fun too. I think I wouldn't mind doing stuff like that. Maybe playing with chat, um, or allowing that kind of stuff to happen. I'm not really good with uh, first person PvP. I think is maybe like I can't. That seems a bit difficult for me. Um, but like scrollers, I would be like that kind of stuff. I could maybe do, or not first person, third person. maybe. Um, those were fun, and I wouldn't mind doing those again. I have to remember to be a good sport about it because I can get a little aggressively, um, what's the word I'm looking for? Competitive. There we go. I can get a little bit aggressively competitive. Um, Cozy and I have talked a lot about doing like games that we became friends playing together, doing together, like Stardew and Minecraft. I actually got Cozy into Minecraft originally. I take full credit for that because Cozy had a sibling or a friend who played Minecraft, but she didn't get into it. And once I was like, "Hey, let's do it," and I think I might have even gotten um, one of the first copies they had of Minecraft so that we could play together. Uh, Ended up liking it, ended up keeping it up, and I miss playing with Cozy, and I think it would be fun to have additional people involved. I would love to actually maybe set up an actual art like a drama or just a fun in-game, in-character RPG type game because that was something that pre-video games I did a lot of. I never did tabletop, but I did online RPG and I loved it. It meant a lot to me. It I'm not going to say that it wasn't like I think I was talking with my spouse about this the other day cuz some of the stuff I did was I guess you could say romance type RP. Part of me, like, I felt like explaining and I think I even said this in our conversation. It was like play acting for me, some of the stuff that I was missing from my real life. Like, I didn't think of, the games I was playing with people as being like, I'm in a relationship with this person who's writing with me. It would be the characters that we're writing together are in a relationship. Yes, we would have a friendship. It's really hard not to develop, um close relationships with people that you're writing things like romance with. It just comes naturally. And I think it for a little while it was really I was struggling with being in an actual IRL relationship with a person and also doing romantic role playing. Um, Something about that was difficult for me to juggle. And because of that, I kind of fell through the cracks with one of my close friends that I used to actively, regularly role play romantic, um, RPG type stuff with. Um, she's not likely to be watching this stream, but I want you to know, Addie, if you are, that I still consider you a close friend, even if we haven't talked for a few years, and still think about you constantly. But I will admit, yeah, that a lot of those early RP type games that I did with other people, it was a lot of play acting relationships I missed having in my real life. Um, so I won't it's I'm not saying that that's something that I'll be actively pursuing with in any sort of co RPG type stuff online, but it might happen. And it's okay if it does. And it's just about, learning to balance that, um, with is it being a story-driven thing? Is it contributing to the overall story, or is it me just play acting to fill a void that I am not having in my life? Um, because now that is definitely not the case. Um, I have a very loving and wonderful relationship with my spouse, and I don't feel the need to supplement that in any way. Um, so I will definitely be taking those kinds of things into deep consideration while I'm working on them if I'm doing them in an RP scenario. Um, I have a few fellow streamers and friends that I think I would love to reach out with and do collaborative stuff with. It would just then come down to, are they also streaming at the same time, or are they only just streaming with me? And what does that mean? And working around schedules, because that's another big adult problem, adult friendships problem. Like as a kid, you have a very structured schedule. You go to school, you come home. If you have any extracurricular activities, you do those things. But Monday through Friday, you are always going to be busy at this time and not busy at this time. And it's very easy to fall into step with routines with your friends. But as an adult, all of that shit flies out the window. Like, sorry, it's not very common to find people who have the same work schedule as you unless you're both working the same type of work. Like if I were friends with a person who was a bartender versus a friend who was a teacher, I would know the bartender friend is not going to be available for big portions of the daytime because they're probably still sleeping from having worked the night before until 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. My teacher friend is always gonna be not available from probably close to 6 AM to 4 PM, and there's also gonna be big portions of time at the end of the day where they also are gonna be doing all of their grading and stuff, um, off the clock, or off the clock is not the right word for it. Because it is on the clock, but it's because it becomes kind of a salary-based type thing versus an hourly type based thing, like the bartender is hourly. They only have to worry about work while they're there on the premises doing the work. The salaried person, like the teacher, is expected to do stuff that's on a schedule, but also expected to do stuff on, quote, unquote, "their own time," and still be able to complete everything that's expected of them. So that teacher friend is only gonna be available certain blocks of time, if that, and that's assuming they don't have social obligations with a relationship with a person or with their children or with whatever, maybe spiritual or religious thing that they're doing. Everybody is like that. Nobody is all on the same schedule like you are when you're a kid going to school. So balancing those friendships and finding the time is is such a challenge. It's something that I wish had been taught to me because I definitely did not develop that skill until I was an adult, and I would venture to say that I still struggle with it, but I know I'm not the only one. I know I'm not the only one. Um, a lot of content creators who do cooperative content making, a lot of them also have to work on juggling time and having, setting up appointments, you could say. It sucks. Oh, I hate it. I hate having to think of my friendships as stuff I have to set appointments for, but that's really what it is. Um, and I know for a while I struggled with having a phone and not immediately responding to anybody who reached out to me. Like if I got texts, I hated text messaging for the longest time. I refused to do it because I hated the fact that people would text and then expect you to respond immediately and have full access to you all the time. Um, I would get on Instant Messenger and I would talk with my friends while I was on Instant Messenger, but I wasn't planning on talking to them outside of those times. So I hated text messages for that reason, and now it's a situation where it's like, I would rather have mostly text conversations with a lot of people that I know, um, because I know they have a tendency to ramble or I ramble, or I don't want it to become this really long conversation. I only want to get a yes or no, or to get a short answer and be done. Um, it could have been a text message slash it could have been an email, that sort of thing. How many people actively use email to communicate with each other? I think about that a lot too. Like, it's all instant messaging, but it's not always instant messaging in real time. Does that make sense? I think that makes sense. I don't think of people writing emails to each other the same way a lot of people don't write letters anymore. Like, it's very uncommon for people to have pen pals because people are just always available now. There isn't a lot of periods of time where a person is not accessible via text message by phone or instant message via computer. So the act of writing a letter or even just an email is such a it's not outdated, but it's an unpracticed thing. And I remember like I've had family members ask me to send them cards or write them letters. And I've struggled with that because it's like, okay, well, but I can just send you a text message or I could just why would I write you a letter and then not talk about it next time I instant message you, you know? Um that's that's such a current time issue. People just don't write letters anymore. It's fine. Like, how do I like, okay, do I hate that? No. Um, and like, it's so easy to call or message somebody who's in the same country as you. It's not always the case with people who live in other countries. And it also maybe situations where like you don't talk to those people all the time. I have a couple friends who live in Australia that I've known for a very, very long time. And one of them specifically, Tristan, we've been friends for most of our lives. Like, I think she was in her late teens, early 20s, and I was in my late teens when we first became friends. And we became friends because we both knew mutual people who were making websites about certain things. I'm not gonna brag or anything, but I would like to say that I was a pretty accomplished web designer in my day. Not so much anymore. The style of website making is significantly different now than it was when I started making websites. I used to be able to pretty actively write websites in HTML code. Um, that's not impressive anymore. It was very impressive at the time, and I was probably 5th, 6th, 7th grade when I was first doing that kind of stuff. Um, I don't remember exactly who brought me into attention to Tristan, but we became really good friends. We would message on Instant Messenger when we saw each other, but we weren't always online at the same time with her being in Australia and me being a younger person who was still expected to go to school and do high school things and stuff like that. So I did write her letters and I kept all of them, like all of the letters that she wrote me in return. I have a hat box full of letters from people that I used to write letters to when I was younger, people who I considered pen pals. But I also like most of the stuff that's in there now are people that I remember very well or cards. I'd have thrown away stuff over the years for people that I just didn't keep in contact with. Um, but then also like thinking about that, I have some friends who I had originally lost contact with, um, and I only just recently found in the last, 5 or 10 years, but people I had known when I was, like, really, really young. I had a friend who we met in probably 2nd or 3rd grade, and she was my best friend, and we stayed friends, um even after I moved away, um, I tried really hard to still be in person active in her life, but my parents were really I won't get into that, but us being not in the same neighborhood anymore made it very difficult to keep in contact. And eventually we did fall out of contact, and it made me really sad. Uh, I did eventually find her again on Facebook, and we reconnected, and I even came down and spent the night at her house, and I got to meet her daughter, and I got to reconnect with her brother, who I hadn't seen in just as much time, and I got to meet a couple of her friends. Her fiancé was out of town at the time, but it was wonderful to reconnect with her, and then while we're still friends on Facebook and we still occasionally send each other messages, we don't really talk much at all anymore. I think I could maybe get into the habit of sending her letters, and other friends similarly, because I did pull out of major activity on Facebook. With the current administration in American politics, United States American politics, I didn't really feel safe being on Facebook anymore. So I still have a Facebook account and I occasionally will check in with people and read their stuff. But I also have mostly just pulled back partly because um, it just stressed me out all the time being on Facebook. I felt like I had to perform my life to people. And at the same time, now I feel like most people don't know what's going on with me because I'm not active on that social media anymore. Um, and I have to actively make attempts to reach out to people and talk to them kind of regularly because otherwise, uh, we wouldn't keep in contact at all. Like I have a lot of people who are quote unquote friends of mine on Facebook that I haven't probably talked to in years, not even to send them the obligatory happy birthday every year. Um, And, like, how do I feel about that? I don't know how I feel about that, to be honest. I should probably think about that a little bit. Um, most of the people I'm still friends with, we're still like we still follow a lot of the same core values. Um, or I wouldn't be friends with them anymore. I did reconnect recently with a childhood friend. I had originally unfriended because they voted for someone who politically did not make me feel safe being a queer person, being a cis not cis, excuse me, being a queer person, being a female coded person, being a mentally not mentally, what do I want to say? Being a person with a lot of health problems, both physical and mental. The person whose political leanings that my friend liked, voted for didn't make me feel safe, so I unfriended them, I unfollowed them, I detached and disconnected from them. We had only just reconnected when I found out those things, and then I pulled away. And I recently got back in touch again, um, but I've been hesitant to bring up those topics with them. I don't 100% know why. I don't know why I felt inclined to reach out to them when it's likely that they haven't really changed their thoughts, feelings, opinions, etc., on the political things that made me feel unsafe. Um, I guess it comes down to just that desire to hold on to the few things that I could because of just having grown up super disconnected and unattached to people because of moving around all the time. Um, but we also haven't talked again since like October. And I think prior to that, we had it was just and I think it was just a brief thing. I think he had reached out to tell me he was having a crappy day, and I said, "I'm sorry to hear that, and I hope it gets better." And I am empathize because I'm having a crappy day too, but I also just got a job, and he was like, "Oh, what'd you get?" And I'm like, "I work as a dispatcher at a thing now." So, and that was the end of the conversation. He didn't say goodbye. He didn't say, "I'll talk to you later," nothing. It just stopped. That's another thing I notice a lot with adult conversations online. You don't necessarily say, "Hey, I gotta go. Talk to you later. Bye." That kind of stuff, like you might on the phone. Um, or maybe it's just some of the people that I talk to. I don't know. Ah, stupid. Stop it. Okay. I vaguely remember talking about what I was gonna do when I got back onto streams again. So let's come back to that. What do I want to do when I get back to streaming again? The reading, both styles, the gaming, wanting to do cooperative gaming type stuff with friends. Just gotta find out which ones work and which friends are interested in doing that. Excuse me. Wow. That's the downside to carbonated things when you've had bariatric surgery. You are so burpy, full of full of air. Um, ah, having yaps. I've thought about doing cooking type stuff. 'Cause I like to cook and I enjoy cooking and I enjoy talking about food and things like that, and I think it would be nice to do some cooking style streams or, like, meal prep streams. Just being able to have that on partially as accountability, partially as a way to keep myself from getting bored. Usually when I'm doing cooking and meal prep, I'll have other people's stuff going on, but it could be fun to do that also myself, like, doing it for other people. Um, I've thought about doing tea related content because I really love tea, and it would give me an excuse to get back into drinking tea regularly and talking about tea and that kind of stuff and doing like reviews and conversations and stuff. I really want a Gaiwan set so badly. Um, I've thought about that a lot. I've thought about getting a Gaiwan set. Dang it with the freaking ads again. Ugh, that's fine. Hmm. What is Gaiwan? For anybody who's not familiar, um, it's a very specific style of tea. Gongfu is another one. Style of tea drinking. Gaiwan specifically is the cup that you often see in a gongfu setup. It's a cup with a saucer and a lid, and typically what you would do rather than have a strainer or anything like that is you would put it in the Gaiwan cup, you would let it brew, and then you would pour that liquid into a drinking cup. And you can either do this just by yourself or you can do it with a group of people. Um, and it's a very mindful practice. It's a very slow practice. You're encouraged to do um, multiple brews of the same tea. It needs to be a good quality tea, a good loose leaf quality tea. And one of the things about doing that style is you also get to taste the more nuanced parts of the tea. It becomes a lot like what some people do when they're drinking wine or what some people do when they're eating caviar or chocolate specific, like very high end chocolate. You're learning to notice all of the tiny nuances in flavor, ingredients, um, all of that. It's a very sensory experience, and I really enjoy those types of experiences. And it would be fun to talk about them with other people. Um, plus, then there's like tea pets and stuff like that, which is it's a whole culture. It becomes a whole culture thing. I think it would be really fun to do that. So I might consider doing that. The cooking stuff and the tea stuff, maybe not as often. Maybe a couple times a month, maybe 3 times a month would be nice. Um, Writing I could do, but have those very specifically be Pomodoro type streams, co-working streams. And I think those would be great for um, actually yapping versus Pomodoro reading, which is reading and then pauses to not speak. The co-working would be um, doing sprints silent and then doing a lot of talking during the breaks. So making sure that I had good music playing and that kind of stuff. Um, and that's a whole challenge by itself because of the way copywriting and content and stuff like that goes. I I enjoy making music. I enjoy singing and making music, but I don't know if I feel like I'm good enough to get an audience on that. Um, because I'm not a composer and um, there's already a lot of karaoke style streams. Like I'm not skilled enough at guitar and I don't play piano or violin or any other instruments like that, but I'm not that good at playing playing guitar and singing at the same time. I would definitely need to do a lot more practicing for that, and I'm pretty sure nobody wants to spend a stream watching me practice an instrument. That seems a little, outside of what would be enjoyable content, especially, assuming I would try to learn something very specific like flute or anything like that. Um, Nothing like that. Um, I have thought about doing language learning on stream. It then that becomes an issue of making sure that the teacher person is getting um, payment from me and also um, credit and stuff like that on stream, making sure that people are maybe reaching out to tip them or whatever. Because there's a very specific language I would like to learn and very specific resources that I have available to me, and I would definitely want to make sure that the teacher would be getting credit and payment and stuff like that. I don't want to just play their videos on stream while I learn, even though that's probably how I would be learning it. Um, so how does one go about doing that? Um, I don't intend to do like l- Duolingo or Rosetta Stone or anything like that because neither of those have options for the language that I want to learn. And also, even if they did, I worry about things with regards to like how I'm learning it, specifically with the rise of AI stuff. Duolingo is especially bad at that. I've had a lot of people who know the language and have learned to speak the language more fluently say, "Hey, this app that's claims to teach this language is not actually very good for it," which is a bummer. Like I said, I don't have a lot of income, so being able to pay somebody what they are worth to teach me a language is really not in my um, financial flexible spending. Um, isn't that frustrating? Ugh, I hate that. And that's another, like, I'm gonna tangent on this just a little bit. So, when I was in high school, when I was growing up, I wasn't encouraged to learn another language. And that's probably a very, again, a United States American thing to do. They're learning another language is not something that is typically encouraged unless you plan to do something with that language or if you plan on going to that place very often or that sort of stuff. Like, realistically, we should actively be teaching a second language regardless of whether or not we quote unquote intend to use it because we live in such a quote unquote melting pot. I hate that term, but it is to some degree true. Country that has huge swaths of population of very specific languages. A lot of the southwesternly states should be learning Spanish. Like, not could, might, possibly also, but should be learning Spanish because huge portions of their population are made up of those people who speak that language and maybe even only that language. Um, and then you'll hear people argue, well, why should I learn another language? They're the people who are quote unquote foreign. But that's not true. It's not. I could get into a whole reason why that's not true, but I don't feel comfortable. I don't feel inclined to do that right now. I'm not interested in chasing that rabbit hole right now. But the truth of the matter is, a lot of people who live on the border of Mexico should be learning Spanish and should be learning Spanish at an age where learning a language is easy. Um, there have been studies about that, about like when is the best prime time to be learning a language. Same thing with learning an instrument. Like that's how you get really good at it is because your brain elasticity is good enough that you're able to retain that stuff. Um, so learning it as an adult can be challenging. Especially and it sucks because also learning a language, if it's not being taught in a school, will always cost money. When I say school, I mean like high school or middle school or something like that, where it doesn't cost addition outside of what you're already quote unquote paying for. Um, I had access to languages in high school, but I also was told there was no point in me learning those languages because I wasn't intending to use them outside of school. Um, there was no point in learning them because I wasn't going to go to college. This was stuff that was told of me when I was young, and um, I don't want to say young and dumb, but definitely young and ignorant. I wish I had actually done it anyway. I wish I'd actually taken the extra step to learn what was available to me at the time and not let someone influence me and tell me that it was a pointless thing to learn a language. It's never a pointless thing to learn a language. Um, it improves you as a person to practice skills that are challenging for so many reasons. Um, But when I was going to high school, the languages that were available to me were Spanish, French, I wanna say German, and oddly enough, Japanese. The reason Japanese was because the teacher, um, who was teaching the language spoke it fluently because of, being in the military, I wanna say, or something along those lines. They spoke it fluently enough that they were allowed to teach it at my school, and they were the only person teaching it at my school, so it was just the one teacher, et cetera, and I regret not having done that. I really do. I regret not having taken the chance to learn the language while it was quote unquote free to me, because language classes now are a lot more expensive. You're in college, I want to say it's at least $300 to $500 for a course in a language. And that's usually just one course, right? Just one course. When I went to school for college, I was in a place where the system was set up in quarterly. So you would take 2 quarters of language 1, and then you would take 2 quarters of language 2. Um, And then, obviously, in other places, semesters are significantly longer in length than quarters. So even though I was still taking 2 quarters of language 1, uh, a semester of language 1 was still going to have more time to learn the same amount of material as I was taking 2 quarters of language 1. I took Spanish in college, um, but I do not speak Spanish at all. Like, yes, I took 3 like language 1 through 3, but I am not fluent. I can understand more than I can speak, and I can understand more written than I can audibly hearing someone speak the language themselves. And I part of me blames the fact that my brain elasticity made it difficult for me to learn and retain the language, and I also wasn't really given an opportunity in my daily life to practice speaking the language. Uh, I could have made better attempts at that. I didn't, and I regret it. And I could probably still go and try. Like I could take a refresher in the language and maybe get better at it and make an attempt to go to like social gatherings with that sort of language is being actively spoken. There are groups, social groups online and offline that are pretty good about practicing. I have two friends, IRL slash online friends who speak Spanish very fluently, and I could practice speaking with them, and they would love that. I know they would love that. Um, I still I very vaguely, not vaguely, what's the word I want to use? Very infrequently speak phrases of Spanish to my Spanish speaking friend out of a fondness for her. So it's more like endearments and stuff like that, or specific phrases like, oh my God, or I can't believe it, stuff like that in Spanish, but not conversationally at all. And I wasn't traveling enough in Spanish speaking countries at all, to be more specific. I wasn't traveling at all in Spanish speaking countries or areas of the states where I could practice using it. It just wasn't something that was happening. I was living in Washington state, and while there were definitely big sections of Washington state that spoke a lot of Spanish, I didn't really live in those places and I didn't visit enough to feel warrant learning it and keeping it active. Where am I going with this? I the language I want to learn now has a lot more to do with the desire to know it for being able to understand books and music and stuff better because they don't um, produce a lot of material about that region, country, etc. in English. A lot of it is only available in the native language of the country. So the only way I'm gonna be able to learn more is if I learn the language. So, what do I do with that? I'm not in college, so I'm not expected to keep the schedule for it. I have to do it myself and keep doing it because I wanna do it and find ways to practice, etcetera. Um, and I don't know if it's gonna be something that would be really content available to do on stream other than to do it in Pomodoro type stuff. Maybe, we'll see. I could do that. We'll see if it would be interesting enough to do. Um, so reading, Pomodoro, um, some gaming, and how many times a week? I work 2 days, so it would be out of 5 days. Um, maybe three. Three would be 3 would be doable. I could potentially do 4 based on how long I am doing those. And um I could also, instead of doing 4, do twice in a single day. Like do something in the morning, do something in the evening. I've done a little bit of research on peak times, which is something that I recently talked about in somebody else's stream in chat because somebody was asking them questions about how do you build an audience on this platform? Like how do you do that? And I said, well, the person answering the question in their chat in their stream said, make sure you're making content for yourself before you make content for anybody else. I think that's great advice. I think it's very important advice. You should never chase content that you're not interested in doing. It will burn you out. It will make you disinterested. After a while, you won't want to do it anymore. Um, there are always going to be people who find you who are interested in the same things as you and you will build friendships out of that. You will build parasocial relationships out of that. You will eventually build content in an audience that reflects those things. I think also, though, if you look at the peak times in the streaming algorithm, the streaming space, where you will be more likely to be seen by other people. I think that is also some advice that I would give because, yeah, you're likely to start off and only have a couple people watching you at any given time, but it'll be a lot more likely that you will be seen if you are broadcasting during a time that is considered a peak time for that subject matter, be it a game, be it so like studying stuff, be it or ASMR, be it reading, whatever. There are going to always be peaks, and sometimes those peaks are going to be in reasonable times because people are coming off of work or they coming off of school or whatever the case may be. So it's really active at this time or that time. And other times, those peaks will be completely outside of what you would normally consider time that you would feel comfortable streaming. So then it becomes a question of, am I doing this as a quote unquote job? And if you're doing it as a quote unquote job, that's what you have to think of it as. Like I'm clocking in for a shift at this time of day because that's when my schedule is available, you know? Sorry. Fucking hitting the table repeatedly with my stupid foot. Um if you want to do that comment, you have to take into consideration the times that they are most likely to be active. Um, the good part is that you're flexible enough to choose when that'll be. Maybe the peak time is 7 o'clock. So what you decide to do is you start to stream from 6 to 8. So when that peak time comes on, that's when you're likely to get the most number of viewers watching you at that time. And it's still in a time of window where you're free, you know? Um, I think those things are important. I think those are things like days of the week, same situation. Like is it gonna be more likely that you do stuff on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Tuesday, Thursday, based on what the schedule is, that sort of thing. So I've already done some research with things that I want to do during those times. So I have a pretty good idea what my schedule is going to be once I start doing it again. And I mean, I'm excited to do it. Like I said, I missed doing it. I've missed doing content like this, streaming and maybe just giving stream of consciousness, or maybe actually playing games that I love playing. I've beat big air quotes there. I beat Graveyard Keeper yesterday. I had been playing it for probably a couple of months now. Um, very slow building. Like I think I was up to like 700 days in the game because I wasn't necessarily hitting the scheduled marks. I was more interested in doing the simulation parts of the game versus following the main story. And then I did it. I think I did all of the main story in a couple of days, and I got to the part where I quote unquote beat the game, and it didn't give me a game plus or anything like that. It basically because I hadn't saved the game, I hadn't saved the day because it ends and you have to pick up where your last save was. There wasn't really an option. You'd have to go back and just replay the event again if you wanted to um, be that. There wasn't. You get the idea. There wasn't a game plus. So I ended up, I think, restarting, and I'm gonna try and challenge myself to get it done in a specific amount of time. I don't know. So I guess people would call that a speed run. Um, but for me, it's kind of a slow run because I probably wouldn't be able to do it in like 100 days without really, really, really challenging myself. And maybe I'd have to play a couple times of just regular, um, regular speed for me type playing. Otherwise, it's just to get the idea of when I need to hit those marks and how long it takes, et cetera, et cetera. And where am I at in my own individual skill as the player? Because there's also you have like 3 or 4 different skill type points or skill type trees where uh you have to develop them if you want to be able to do certain things. And I think specifically with Graveyard Keeper, the hardest one to get points for in terms of trees are the blue ones because they're specifically related to religious events. So doing anything in the church, you get blue points through that. Um, and you only are able to do the church stuff on Sunday. So, the rest of the time, it's a bit more challenging. Certain items, I think crafting them gives you blue points, but you have to need them, because otherwise you're just grinding. Because I've seen a couple different people, they're like, "Oh, if you make headstones, you'll get blue points." So they would just make a bunch of headstones and then deconstruct them. And usually, when they deconstructed them, they would not always get back the same amount of materials that it took to make the things to begin with. So it's kind of like a loss. It's a net loss, I think is the correct term for it. So do I want to even do that? To get those points, or is there a better way? I know I didn't develop my graveyard as much as I could have. I definitely did not finish huge swaths of story because I didn't pursue them. I just kept doing other stuff. So playing it again, doing it from a quote unquote achievement hunting uh mindset would probably get me closer to having a better version. I think that was also another thing I talked about with Cozy specifically was how, um, she hasn't gotten a 100% perfection while playing Stardew. I think it would be fun to maybe aim to do that together and or with additional people. Um, there's a few games that I found that I'd love to play with other people. I did just get Peak. 'Cause that's the next popular thing that's going on right now is Peak, um, with the hope/intention of playing with a couple people that I know who have the game already, and or maybe encouraging people to get it so that I can play with them, and or possibly setting up a game with chat situation. Um, any of those could possibly be fun. I would enjoy those, um, specifically with Peak, but also with, Broadbeard's Tavern. I found that one randomly one day, and me and Cozy played it together, and it was super chaotic because it was just the 2 of us playing together. I think it would be really enjoyable to play with more than just the 2 of us, like 3 or 4 additional people, or 2 or 3 more people so that we would be a team of 5 or a team of 6 or whatever. There's been additional content that has been released since I last played it, um, DLC type stuff. The base game itself, I know is free, so I don't know if the DLCs are free or not. I would assume they are, but who knows for sure. Um, but it would be fun. It would be fun to play those games with other people, but I would also really just enjoy doing some RP again. I think it would be fun. Spouse and I have talked about doing tabletop stuff together. He really wants me to do like a one shot with him specifically, where he would be doing uh, dungeon mastering for me, and there would be like there's a whole I forget what it's called. But there's like a whole style where it's like an adventure where the DM just kind of leads you along and does all of the NPCs, and you might have like a quote unquote pet monster buddy type thing who you can utilize in battles and stuff. But it's not like a typical table of 4 plus people, and he wants to do that with me as a way to bring me into tabletop RP more gently than the way that I was originally able to do the first time I did. Um, So the first time was really bad. I could talk about that. That's something I could talk about very easily. So my first slash ever real D&D experience, tabletop Dungeons and Dragons with other people, was with my spouse and some of my spouse's friends. And we had one mutual friend who joined us that we knew that was not connected with these other friends of my spouse's at all. It was just a friend that my spouse and I had separately from all of these other people. So altogether, I want to say it was 6 of us who played. Yeah, with one of those 6 people being the dungeon master, but also having like his own character in the game that he was playing in addition to us all doing stuff together. Um and I found out partway through the game that one of the players, um, didn't really care that Chick-fil-A was a business that supported anti, LGBT rights and stuff. Like, they have actively donated to organizations to try and take away rights from transgender and LGBT people, and they're also very Christian, the organization, but the kind of Christian that just is very discriminating and not good, to put it mildly. Um, the way this had come up was they had come to a table, a game day, and one of 2 people had, Chick-fil-A in a bag and tried to eat it at my table. I immediately was on edge and was like, "What the hell is that?" And they decided to match me and my energy and was like, "What does it look like?" And I was like, "It looks like Chick-fil-A, and why the hell did you bring that in my house?" And he was like, "Well, 'cause it's food and I was hungry." I'm like, "Well, you can eat it outside of my house. Do not bring that shit into my house. Um, you happen to know that I'm queer, and I don't appreciate what you're saying with your choices." And he initially said no, and I got so pissed off that I had to get up and leave the room to calm down. And it took a little bit, but my spouse caught on to what was going on and was able to convince this person to go eat outside because they were actually friends. And partly, and I mean, I'm grateful that my spouse was on my side and supported me and stood up for me and also just like agreed with me and held that line in the sand. But the fact that they didn't take me seriously off of my word also made me angrier. And uh the the game day was really strained because of that. And afterward, I found out part of the reason why that person brought that food in was because they were carpooling with somebody who that was their one of the 2 options they provided was Chick-fil-A and, um, I wanna say what's it called? Oh, I can't remember. What's the taco place? I can't remember. Anyway, one of these 2 options. Didn't offer any other like KFC or Popeyes, obviously, or other chicken places, but no, he was like Chick-fil-A, and I approached him separately to say, "Do you know all these things about Chick-fil-A?" And his response was, "I don't take," um I'm trying to remember his exact words because they were infuriating. It was something more along the lines of he doesn't blindly follow, um one source of media about this one thing, and I'm like, "Okay, here's, like, over 10," but he wasn't having any of it, and he's like, "I don't care. It's food and I'm gonna eat it." And I said, "Oh, okay. So what I'm hearing you say is you don't care that this business supports taking my rights away and discriminating against me." And he tried to say, "Well, no, that's not the case." I'm like, "But you're proving it. You're proving that you feel that way by continuing to buy this product from these people who do these things, who believe these things. Don't you understand that there is a direct cause corollary?" And he refused to acknowledge that and see it for what it was. My spouse also stepped in and said something. Treated the guy treated my spouse the same way he treated me. He tried to come back to the table another game day. He tried to soften the blow by buying us a gift, each of us individually, a gift that was directly related to the game. And I was terse the entire session because I didn't want him to be there, but I didn't want to make waves necessarily. So I compromised myself and my core beliefs to allow this person to be present at in my own house. And the more I stewed in that realization, the more angry I got. By the end of the day, I said, "I expect an apology from you." And he's like, "For what?" And I'm like, "You know what?" And he's like, "I'm not apologizing for that." And I said, "Well, okay, get the fuck out of my house and don't come back." And he looked at me like stunned that I would say that. And then he looked at the DM, and the DM is like, "You heard them. Get the fuck out." Um, and that was the end of the game. We didn't continue any more sessions after that specific thing. Spouse remove themselves from their orbit in terms of friendship. I never was friends with the guy to begin with, so it wasn't a huge loss for me. Um, what did cause some stress was the first friend who matched my energy. We came to an understanding and he apologized for how he reacted to me. The DM is still friends with that person, to my understanding, which caused its own fracture for me because again, it's that whole, these are my core beliefs. This is how I feel. This is how important this is to me. And you're supporting taking those things away from me by being friends with somebody who doesn't care, who doesn't, who voluntarily continues to participate in the thing that is causing issues. And what does that look like for you that makes you less trustful for me? Like the whole thing was really hard for me. If you can hear my spouse talking, I'm so sorry. I don't know how good the mic is and if it's picking everything up, but yeah, he's out there chatting away with somebody either on the phone or with a neighbor. I don't know. Either way. Um, so that was my first D&D experience. And because of that, it made me kind of reluctant to do anything like that again in person with people. Because in online space, I can just leave and not cause it won't cause any problems. But it's a little more difficult to do at a table with other people, especially if your spouse or your partner or your friend or whoever you came with is still there being active and doing stuff. If you decide you don't want to do it for whatever reason, how are you going to get home? Or you're going to force your friends to stop what they're doing to help take you home or whatever the case may be. It puts a challenge on me in that way. And similarly, I had trouble for the longest times doing co-op gaming for that reason. It became an issue of I don't know that I can expect somebody to be on the same schedule as me, to do things for as long as me, to be as equally invested as I am, etc. It was just easier slash safer to play games by myself, to do stuff on my own. So didn't really develop a lot of friendships doing that kind of stuff either. Um, and I wish I had. I really do. I really wish I had done a better job. But it's never too late. You can always try again. You can always try more. You can always pick something up. There's nothing wrong with that. Oh, that's another activity. Doing fiber arts. Fiber arts was another thing I was interested in trying to do as content. Learning slash practicing slash showing my work, etc. I have a bunch of supplies for that, a lot of which I've gotten through thrift stores of all things. And friends of mine who are no longer interested and them just passing their tools on to me. It started with my grandmother though. She when she passed, she willed me a lot of her tools. And the things that I didn't still have, my mom still had when we were still talking, because I'm no contact with my family. Or I should say with my core family. I no longer keep communications with my core family for a lot of reasons. I don't want to get into here right now anyway. I was able to get all of my grandmother's knitting and crochet needles, my grandmother's knitting and crochet needles, so that I could possibly get into the habit of doing that. And there's a lot of thrift products. You can go to any thrift store and probably find entire skeins of wool and other fiber to at pennies of what you would get if you bought them new at a store. And you can also do what some people in the fiber community call frogging, which is to basically untangle, unweave, whatever projects in order to use their yarn or their fiber to do it that way. I've also am really interested in maybe learning how to do felting and stuff like that, specifically like wet felting and things like that. So I have a lot of products to do that, to practice doing that. So that is something else I could possibly do in terms of content online and things like that. Got a lot of options. Got a lot of things I could pursue doing. Hello, spouse. Who were you talking to out there?
Neighbor.
Backdoor neighbor. That's fun. You look like you didn't know where to put yourself. I'm sorry.
No, I didn't remember where
Oh,
I
okay.
left a container that I'm putting stuff back into over here.
Got it. Got it. Got it. Ah, yeah. So lots of stuff to think about to do. Um, stuff I'm eager to do. I really am very eager to get back into doing this. It would be enjoyable. I would enjoy doing it. And as I really,
Yes.
oh my God. As I originally was told back when I first considered doing this, it's not like I'm not already doing it, so I might as well be doing it and this at the same time. Um, for me, it's a lot more, for me, by doing it that way, it's a lot more about being accountable and maybe building a community of people who are interested in doing it. I do have a Discord. Um, in if you wanted to type in chat exclamation point Discord. I think that link is still good. I need to check and see if it's still good. Um, I'm also on Blue Sky. I do have an Instagram account, but I'm not really using it anymore right now anyway. Um, Discord is probably the best way to do stuff with me. Um, I am interested in doing collaboration stuff with anybody who would be interested in doing collaboration. Maybe we can be pals. Maybe we can do stuff together once I've got my things sorted out. I'm on Epic Games, I'm on Steam. I do play both versions of Minecraft, and when I get my rig back up, I can definitely try doing stuff with other people. I would like to do that. It'd be fun. Um, yeah, but I've been on here for 3 whole hours. And I think it's time to toddle off.
You did mine yet.
I do have a loaf of bread that's proofing in the oven. I don't know how much it's proofed. Probably should just bake it anyway, even though it'll be a little flat-ish. Sigh. And put some stuff in the washer and maybe make some dinner and things. So I'm gonna go ahead and see about trying to get this done and maybe finding somebody to raid. So let me see who is around for raiding. If I can get, hang on. Good grief. Oh, get out of there. Come on. There we go. Cozy's live. Obviously, we can raid Cozy. Come on. Why are you? Oh my god. Turn my volume all the way down so in case it opens up and it's making sound. Doop doop doop. Alrighty. Let's see, let's see, let's see. I think I'd like to do somebody new. I think I'll do books with Meg. So that's what we're gonna do. I don't currently have a raid call set up, so we are just gonna go say hi. Um, I'm going to, hopefully this will work correctly. We'll see if it happens right. Um, Neff, I didn't even see you come in. Hi, Neff. Wow, this is what I get for not paying attention. So we're gonna go raid books with Meg. You can say Bard brought me. That can be your raid out. How's that sound? Books with Meg. Hopefully that works. I'm worried that it's wrong, so now I have to look again. Give me a second to double check. Yep, it is. Books with Meg. Yeah, what'd you do that for? Well, I know exactly what you did that for. Stop it. Stop. Alrighty, let's see if this works.
That was just bonus content for the people who actually stuck around long enough to get raided.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's not right. Okay. That didn't actually work the way I wanted. Oh, I know why. I know what I need to do. It's the other way. Here, let's try that. Raid. Here we go. Books with Mick. There we go. Perfect. All right. So here we go. Thank you all for coming, those who showed up, and I'll see you next time.